Hey guys, Brian here. Have you guys ever considered getting one of these mini excavators, but you're wondering, what are the bad things about it? What do people not like about these excavators? What about these excavators suck? Well, in today's video, I'm going to go over the 7 things I hate, or the 7 cons that I can think of about my Chinese mini excavator. Now, I did do another video on the pros, because I think there are a lot of pros of the excavator, so I'll put the link to that, as well as a 1.5 year review on this excavator. Now, like I just said, I have owned this thing for a 1.5 years. I've put about 50 hours on this excavator. I use this on our second property. This is not our primary residence, so I've been using this on our second property, but I've done a lot of various jobs with this thing, and so I feel like I've got a good sense of the excavator, and I'm just going to go over the 7 things that I don't like about it. So let's get into it. And the first one is that it does not have pilot controls. The controls are up here. Now, obviously, I knew this going into this. It's no surprise I bought it like this. However, I've rented excavators before with pilot controls, and the ergonomics of those is so much better than this. The way I have found this thing to be the most comfortable with the sticks up here is I slide the seat as far forward as I can get, so you're a little bit more on top. Now, if you have the seat further back, you're definitely going to be hunched over operating it, and it's just not comfortable, especially after a few hours worth of work. I think it's so much better to have pilot controls, and there's excavators that are in this price range that have pilot controls. Second thing that I really hate about the excavator is how inaccessible it is to do maintenance. Basically every aspect of maintenance. I'll show you guys a little bit more. Now, if you're a mechanic, you know, you may scoff at that and say, oh, it's really not that bad. I'm just a normal dude, okay? Probably like 90 to 95% of you that are watching this video, you're not a mechanic, neither am I. And this thing is such a pain in the ass to work on, from the engine to the spool valve up here. Every aspect of it, it's a total pain, and I'll show you guys what I mean. All right, so let's take this spool valve area, this plate here, for instance, as far as the accessibility. You're like, oh yeah, there's just bolts on the outside, no big deal. You pop that off, you can access it. Wrong. These bolts have nuts on the back. So can you take it off? Sure. But how in the heck, once the nut falls in there, are you supposed to put this thing back together? I started to take this off because one of the sticks was getting a little loose. I had to remove this once I found that out, and the nut had dropped in there. I had to take this off, squeeze my hand down in here, hold the nut, and put it on. Total pain in the butt. And that's pretty much how every aspect of this thing is. Now, you may say, oh, well, it's got these vents. You can take them off and you can access everything. Okay, really? The dipstick is in there. No, I can't reach it from here. From the back, I can, but I gotta tweak my arm around here. And I'm not a huge guy. I'm 5'8", about 160 pounds. I can barely get my arm onto that dipstick without gouging it into here. Same thing with the fuel cutoff. Or the air filter, right? This box you got to remove to get the access to the air filter. Well, it doesn't come all the way up because it hits this bar. So you got to kind of push it up and tweak it over to the side and then squeeze your air filter out. And it's just such a poor design. And some of you guys may say, oh, well, you could just take this panel off. Well, you got this bolt, this bolt. You got to take off the ROPS. Oh, it continues further back here. And this panel goes under my counterweight. Now, the newer models of the YH14 may be a little bit better, but this 2023 model sucks. It is absolutely terrible. So if you're going to get one of these excavators, do yourself a favor, get one with a hood or a door back here, and that is going to make a world of difference. Because if you're just trying to look at your dipstick or change your oil or do any of the routine maintenance you're supposed to do, you're going to have a heck of a time if you have a unit like this that doesn't have a door or hood or is just very inaccessible. So while we're down here, let's talk about this thing overheating. And that's another thing I hate about this excavator, is the fact that it overheats. Now, when I bought this thing, I was under the impression it was going to have a hydraulic cooler. I drove 10 hours to Oklahoma and found out that this is a 2023 model, so it does not have a hydraulic cooler, but the 24s were going to have the hydraulic cooler. Ron told me that it was not an issue, that it should be fine. And for the first 20 or 25 hours, it was okay, but that's because I was operating in this stuff. I was, you know, operating cooler temps where it would maybe get to be about 50 degrees. Once it got to be 70, 75 out Fahrenheit, this thing started to overheat after maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of usage. Not doing anything crazy, but the spool valve in here, this would get so hot, all your hydraulics, you could touch it and it would be really hot to the touch, and everything was super sluggish and the hydraulics basically stopped working. I reached out to Ron at Kymron Equipment. He said drain the hydraulic fluid and try it again. I did that. I was still getting overheating issues. I put in this little battery operated fan. This helped. But it still overheats. Now, I did make a video about that. The owner at, I believe it's Parsley Equipment, who he sells Kymrons as well, he said he recommended I use non-ethanol 87 fuel, and he said if you do that, you should not have any overheating issues. I have been using non-ethanol, but it's wintertime, as you can see with the snow, so I don't know if that's going to fix the issue. I did order a hydraulic cooler, so I plan on installing that. But I got that from eBay because Kymron Equipment was out of stock and they didn't know when they were going to be back. So that was also kind of a bummer. Another just design flaw in this thing, in my opinion, is the fact that the exhaust is here. It's actually inside your body here. So I probably am going to put an exhaust pipe on here so all the hot air gets exhausted out. Because again, that's just kind of a design flaw. It just kind of stays in here without that fan pushing that hot air out. That hot air just stays in there. So overheating has definitely been an issue, and one thing that I hate about this excavator. So if you're gonna get one of these mini excavators, get one with a hydraulic cooler. That is definitely a must. And use non-ethanol fuel. The fourth thing that I hate about this excavator is how slow it is when you're tracking, right? Now, I knew this ahead of time. Most of the videos on YouTube, everybody talks about how slow this thing is. It literally goes a mile an hour when you're throttled up. It is so slow. If you are tracking a distance, at least on my model, these sticks are the ergonomics of them are very poor, and your hands get tired. It sounds strange, but they really do get tired. Probably only after about I don't know, 150 feet or so, because you got to push these up a decent amount. You got to put a decent amount of pressure on there, and it's not a comfortable thing to drive. So I do a lot of work on the backside of our property up there. It's a half a mile away where I do that work. I have found it faster to load it up on my trailer, strap it down, haul it up there, unload it, than just to drive it. And this honestly, in my opinion, after using it, this is a deal breaker for me. I'm considering buying a different excavator, and this is one of the top reasons why. It's just because this thing is so darn slow. So the fifth thing I hate about this excavator is the fact that it's tippy. Now, I kind of had an idea about that going into it because that's what some other guys said, but I didn't think it was going to be an issue as long as I'm careful. I got the ROPS here. But I definitely wish I would have gotten something with either a wider footprint that could have retractable tracks or something where the tracks are longer, because I have actually already tipped this thing. Now, some of it was definitely my fault. I had a log grabbed and I was moving it over to the side, and I had my arm outstretched a little too much and I tipped. Thankfully, there was a tree and the ROP saved me from tipping over, because I just fell right into that tree. I was able to drop the log, do a little bit of a push-up, and I was good to go. But the tippiness is definitely one aspect that is making me consider getting a new excavator, just because my basically my entire property is hilly. But I've almost tipped this thing too, just on this pretty level ground. When I was digging and set one of the trees over here, same thing. So it is just extremely tippy. And again, something that has a wider stance or longer tracks is something I'm definitely interested in getting. And one reason I'm looking at getting a new excavator. So the sixth thing I really hate about this is it's pretty jerky. Now I have gotten better at operating this thing after 50 hours where it's not as jerky, because I know some people are going to say, oh, well, that's the operator. And I agree with that to an extent, but it is not as buttery smooth as Ron talks about. Just to give you some realistic expectations, you know, it can definitely be jerky. Actually, it's especially jerky too if you have the throttle cranked all the way up. It gets jerky very quick. And for me, being at 10,000 feet here, I usually have to run this thing at half or 3/4 throttle. I can't operate it at that idle to quarter throttle, because otherwise the engine will die. So right now I'm on idle. I'm going to push the thumb, and I just killed the machine. Kind of with that, you do lose pressure up here in your swing boom. So what happens is you'll be digging or doing some work for about 30 minutes, and your swing boom just starts to drift over to the left. And you got to hit your switch and rotate it back over, and you know, you're good to go. Not a huge thing, but I've noticed that. I've also noticed in some of my time-lapse videos, if I have the arm up and out and I jump off the machine, you just start to see it kind of sag down. So just some things to be aware of with this machine. Now the seventh thing I hate about the excavator is just stupid little things breaking. Like this headrest, for instance, right? This little clamp broke. Okay. Thankfully, it still goes in there and we're okay. This seat is just kind of a piece of junk, to be honest. I was operating this maybe 2 weeks ago, planting trees. I go to scoot it forward, and the two bolts on the back of the chair fall off. Well, one of the nuts on the inside of the seat is still in the seat somewhere. And of course, as I talked about earlier with the accessibility to this, in order to just tighten 2 screws on here, it ends up taking damn near 30 minutes, because you have to completely take apart the seat or maneuver it in such a way that it's just a total pain in the butt to try to fix. And that's just tightening down screws, for Pete's sake. My seat belt, that broke, I think, within an hour of using it. K&R Equipment did send me a new seat belt right away, so that was awesome. Because, I mean, I'm not kidding. It was literally within the first hour the seat broke. After 50 hours, we're starting to get a hole in our high-quality little mat here. I've also had the voltage and hour meter kind of flicker from time to time. Lately, they've been working. I actually think a lot of that has to do with the heat. But I know some guys, they've had that go out, as well as the battery disconnect switch. That hasn't gone out on me. That's been good, thankfully. But then, like the choke, it doesn't always pull up or go down easy. And some of that isn't necessarily it breaking, but the lines are just kind of pinched back here. And so there's just little quirky stuff that doesn't work or sometimes breaks on here, which is just kind of annoying. And while I bought this and a ripper bucket and an 8-inch bucket for, I think, about 11,000 bucks, you know, it's not like I spent 30 or 40,000 bucks on it. Still, some of this little stuff is just real stupid, to be honest. And one other thing I don't like. So overall, I definitely still like the excavator. It's really helped out on our property and has been a great asset to have. Now, would I buy this model again? No, I wouldn't. And I wouldn't for 4 reasons. 1, the stability, like I talked about. With the hilly terrain that I have here, this thing is just not safe. I need something that is a lot more stable. 2, I really want to have pilot controls after operating it with these. Again, if you're on it for any length of time, pilot controls are just so much more comfortable. The 3rd reason I want to buy this one again is the speed. This thing is just so slow that a 2-speed for me would be a game changer, especially with where I do most of my work being way back there. If I had a 2-speed and could just drive up there, that would be huge. And the fourth thing that's really kind of a deal breaker in my opinion is the inaccessibility of the engine, the spool valve, basically any maintenance on this thing. It's just so inaccessible. So for those reasons, I would not buy this again. Would I buy a mini excavator again, a Chinese one? Yeah, I definitely would. Because this has helped out with so many projects overall, and it was affordable. You know, there's just some things that I just don't like about this particular model that I am looking at getting another excavator, and you know, I'm hoping to have some of these little quirky things fixed, or at least some of the main ones that I talked about, and hopefully we'll be good to go. But do you guys have one of these excavators? Are there things you don't like about it? If there are, put it in the comments below. Again, I made another video about the pros or the good things I like about this, so check that out. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.